When you think you already understand the world, it's often the lesser-known stories that force you to see everything in a new light. From the seemingly simple inventions of the Egyptians along the Nile, to the hidden cave systems beneath the English countryside, from the sacred mysteries of ancient Persia in the blazing desert, to legends of vanished civilizations buried beneath the sands of the Sahara, each is a mysterious piece of the human story. If you're ready to dive into today's unsolved mysteries, make sure to hit that like button before we begin. The mystery of the Drapa stones. In 1938, amid the untouched peaks of the Bayan Har Mountains in Qinghai Province, Western China, an archaeological team led by Dr. Chi Pu Te discovered a series of strange man-made caves. As they moved deeper inside, the whole team was taken aback by what awaited them ahead. Lying silently in the darkness of the caves were rows of ancient tombs, each one containing skeletal remains with unusual shapes. These skeletons had very large heads, but their bodies were small and slender, unlike any ancient humans ever known before. What astonished the team even more was the appearance of 716 stone discs, all neatly arranged beside the skeletons. Each disc had a round hole in the center and was carved with spiral grooves stretching from the center to the edge. At first, everyone thought these were just decorative patterns, possibly used for ancient rituals or as feng shui items. However, when the researchers examined them closely under a magnifying glass, they discovered that these spirals were actually made up of countless tiny characters, shaped somewhat like hieroglyphs but completely unfamiliar. This discovery quickly spread to the international archaeological community and stirred up a great deal of controversy. By the 1960s, a professor named Tsum Nui from the Beijing Academy of Ancient Studies announced that he had decoded the mysterious characters on the stone discs. According to his publication, the discs told the story of a race called the Dropa. They were extraterrestrial beings who crashed on Earth more than 12,000 years ago. Unable to repair their damaged spacecraft, the Dropa were forced to stay on this planet, living alongside the local people and gradually adapting to their new environment. Professor Tsum Nui's work was not only unrecognized, but also mocked and scorned by many of his colleagues. He was pressured so much that he had to leave China and eventually died alone in Japan. But the story of the Dropa stones did not end there. In 1968, Soviet scientist Vladimir Zaitsev had the opportunity to directly examine several of the discs and found that they contained a fairly large amount of cobalt, a rare metal that would have been very difficult to process in ancient times. Some experiments even showed that these discs could conduct electricity, something that seemed impossible for the level of technology thousands of years ago. This finding made the debates about the origin and purpose of the Dropa stones even more heated. In 1974, Austrian engineer Ernst Wegerer visited the Banpo Museum in China and saw two Dropa discs on display with his own eyes. He tried to take photos of the mysterious characters on the discs, but because of the flash, all the fine details were wiped out from the film. Later, when Western researchers wanted to investigate further, they found that the discs had disappeared from the museum. According to German scientist Hartwig Hausdorff, he was informed that all the Dropa discs had been destroyed, and the Chinese authorities denied the existence of the Dropa people, claiming that everything was just fiction. However, not everyone believes the extraterrestrial hypothesis. Some Chinese researchers argue that these stone discs are actually Bai discs, a type of artifact common during the Neolithic era in China. These were usually used in ritual ceremonies and carried religious or symbolic meanings, with no connection to any alien civilization at all. To this day, the mystery of the Dropa stones remains unsolved. The story of a strange race from a faraway world and the discs said to record messages from thousands of years ago continues to fuel the curiosity of anyone fascinated by the world's unexplained mysteries. The Anunnaki, the mysterious gods of Mesopotamia. Across the fertile fields between the two great rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates, the ancient civilization of Mesopotamia once flourished and left behind a legacy filled with legend and myth. Among its rich trove of mythology, the most prominent is the story of the Anunnaki, a group of deities meticulously recorded on clay tablets inscribed with the cuneiform script of the ancients. To the people of old, the Anunnaki were not only mysterious figures, but also supreme gods who held the power of creation and ruled over the entire universe. According to legend, the Anunnaki were the descendants of An, the sky god, and Ki, the earth goddess. Among them were famous deities such as Enki, the god of water and wisdom, who was always considered a great friend to humanity. Enki was known for imparting knowledge and bringing good things to people. In stark contrast was Enlil, the god of wind and storms, a deity with a capricious nature, who at times would unleash catastrophic floods to wipe out humanity when he believed they no longer deserved to exist. Also, not to be forgotten is the goddess Inanna, the deity of love and war, who always appeared as both alluring and fierce, a symbol of both life and death in the everyday life of ancient Mesopotamians. Stories about the Anunnaki go beyond mere legend. They are closely tied to the creation of human civilization itself. According to Sumerian belief, it was the Anunnaki who created humans from clay to serve the gods. People believed that every aspect of life, both great and small, was under the influence of the Anunnaki. However, in recent decades, the story of the Anunnaki has been viewed from a completely different perspective. Author Zecharia Sitchin, in his famous book series, The 12th Planet, put forward a controversial theory. He argued that the Anunnaki were not gods in the traditional sense, but were, in fact, extraterrestrials from a distant planet called Nibiru. According to Sitchin, these beings set foot on Earth hundreds of thousands of years ago with the goal of extracting gold and mineral resources. To serve this purpose, the Anunnaki used genetic engineering to create humans from local creatures, turning them into a workforce for their gold mines. Sitchin's argument is based on his personal interpretation of ancient scripts and the symbols found on bas-reliefs. However, the majority of archaeologists and experts in Mesopotamian studies believe that his theory lacks scientific evidence. They see it as excessive imagination with no concrete proof. Many scholars argue that the stories about the Anunnaki simply reflect the deep faith of ancient people in the existence of supernatural forces and their desire to explain their own origins. Regardless of how they are viewed, the Anunnaki remain an essential part of some of history's greatest mysteries. The story of ancient gods who created humans, controlled destinies, and may have come from another world continues to raise questions with no clear answers. Are we merely the products of ancient imagination and belief, or did an extraterrestrial civilization truly play a role in shaping human history? Perhaps it is this very ambiguity and controversy that has allowed the story of the Anunnaki to endure through the ages. Vimana, the flying chariots in ancient Indian legends. In India, a land where moss-covered temples and millennia-old legends still echo in the hearts of its people, there exists a mystery that modern scholars continue to debate. It is the story of the Vimana, those wondrous, flying chariots that appear throughout ancient texts and in the two great epics, the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. As one turns the pages of these classics, not only do powerful deities come to life, but also images of floating palaces hovering in the sky, radiant vehicles streaking across the heavens, emitting strange and unearthly sounds. According to descriptions in ancient texts, Vimanas were not just the luxurious palaces of the gods, but also mighty vehicles of transportation. Some Vimanas were depicted as multi-tiered flying castles, equipped with weaponry and capable of traveling thousands of miles, even crossing boundaries between different worlds. In the Ramayana, the Vimana of the god Ravana could automatically fly wherever he wished. These descriptions bear a striking resemblance to the modern concept of airplanes or spaceships as we imagine them today. But the stories are not confined to oral tradition alone. Some texts, such as the Vaimanika Shastra, go even further by offering detailed accounts of the structure, operating principles, and even the combat mechanisms of Vimanas. These descriptions mention technical devices, controllable engines, and aerodynamic details that, at first glance, are hard to believe could have originated from an ancient civilization. Such elements have fueled countless questions and debates that have lasted for decades. In an era filled with new discoveries about the universe, many have begun to look at the Vimana from a completely new perspective. Those who support the ancient astronaut theory believe that the ancestors of India actually witnessed the arrival of extraterrestrial spacecraft. For them, the gods in these legends were nothing more than visitors from distant worlds, bringing with them technology far beyond the understanding of people at that time. Vimanas, in this view, are the evidence that ancient people used to describe the strange flying objects they saw in the sky. However, serious scholars and researchers take a much more cautious stance. They believe that most of what is described about Vimanas is rooted in religious symbolism, or the rich imagination found in ancient Indian culture. The idea of gods possessing special vehicles serves mainly to emphasize their supernatural power and exalted status in the minds of the community. Notably, the Vaimanika Shastra, which is frequently cited in these debates for its technical details, is now suspected to be a product of the 20th century, rather than a true relic from antiquity. No matter how one explains it, the story of the Vimana remains one of ancient India's most captivating mysteries. These radiant flying chariots have carried the imagination of countless generations, bridging the worlds of mythology and humanity's eternal yearning to reach the skies. Ancient atomic war. When we think of warfare in ancient times, most people imagine armies wielding swords and shields, charging through clouds of dust across vast open fields. Yet, sometimes history conceals secrets no one could ever expect. There is evidence suggesting that ancient humans may have endured disasters far beyond anything our modern minds can comprehend. In India, the epic Mahabharata has existed for thousands of years, and within its pages, battles are described that are unlike any other in recorded history. The epic speaks of a mysterious weapon that unleashed an explosion as bright as 1,000 suns blazing across the sky, followed by an intense heat that swept away everything in its path. Survivors of this blast were said to have suffered greatly. Their hair fell out, their fingernails detached from their hands, and their skin became blackened and burned. These descriptions are strikingly similar to the symptoms of radiation exposure as we understand them today. If these accounts were found only in ancient texts, many people would be skeptical. However, archaeological discoveries at Mohenjo-Daro in present-day Pakistan have made the story even more peculiar. Here, archaeologists found 44 human skeletons scattered across the streets of this ancient city. There were no graves, no preparation for death. The skeletons were left on the ground as if their lives had been snatched away in an instant. Around them, materials like clay, bricks, and pottery showed signs of being melted at extremely high temperatures. Even more astonishing, when scientists examined these skeletons, they found traces of radiation dozens of times higher than normal. These unusual details led two researchers, David Davenport and Alexander Grabowski, to put forward a bold hypothesis. They suggested that a massive explosion had once occurred in the heart of the ancient city, an explosion that left behind an enormous heat signature and radioactive debris spread across the area. If true, it would mean that Mohenjo-Daro once experienced a catastrophe eerily similar to the nuclear explosions humanity has only witnessed in the 20th century. This has left many to wonder whether ancient people might have possessed technological secrets beyond anything we dare imagine today. Even so, the traditional archaeological community maintains a cautious and rational perspective. Many experts believe that the skeletons may be the result of an epidemic or a natural disaster, with victims buried together in haste to prevent the spread of disease. The melted materials could simply be evidence of a massive fire that raged for days and nights. Moreover, many brick structures at Mohenjo-Daro have survived to this day. If there really had been a nuclear explosion, it is hard to believe that these walls would have remained standing for centuries. Did our distant ancestors really experience an ancient atomic war? Or are all these details merely strange coincidences, where myth, archaeology, and the boundless curiosity of humanity intersect? The Ark on the Mountain, Noah's Ark and the Traces in Turkey. In eastern Turkey, there is a large rock formation stretching more than 530 feet, and anyone looking down from above can see that it bears an uncanny resemblance to a massive ship. Its name is the Durupanar Formation. This rock formation sits at an altitude of about 6,500 feet above sea level, nestled among desolate hills and subjected to a harsh climate year-round. From the moment it was discovered, it has drawn worldwide attention, as many people believe that this is the very place where Noah's Ark came to rest after the great flood described in the Bible. The story of Durupanar began in 1959 when a Turkish Air Force pilot, during a routine patrol flight, spotted this unusual shape and took the very first aerial photographs. Those images quickly spread, leading to expeditions and research teams from around the world traveling to the site to investigate a mystery that has endured for thousands of years. In the decades that followed, many scientists continued to survey the area using a variety of methods. As technology advanced, researchers employed ground-penetrating radar to scan beneath the surface of the Durupanar Formation. Surveys conducted in 2019 and 2024 revealed geometric patterns beneath the earth and rock, shapes so regular that many people were reminded of ship compartments or storage partitions within a large vessel. These findings have only fueled speculation that the legendary Ark might once have existed here. In 2023, Turkish researchers announced that they had discovered traces of organic material buried deep in the soil of the area. These samples could be fossilized wood from ancient times. Then, in early 2025, soil core samples taken from deep within the rock formation revealed the presence of small seashell fragments and marine clay. The discovery of shells and marine clay here is evidence suggesting that this area may have once been underwater or was connected to an ancient sea long ago. There is another curious phenomenon that has drawn widespread fascination. Every autumn, as the weather begins to cool, the grass growing within the ship-shaped outline turns yellow much earlier than the grass outside that area. Many scientists believe this happens because there may be large cavities beneath the ground, causing lower temperatures and earlier seasonal die-off in that spot. This phenomenon has repeated year after year, as if reminding people of some mystery still buried beneath the surface. Radiocarbon analysis of samples taken from Durupanar shows traces of human activity in the area dating from about 5,500 to 3,000 BCE. This time frame coincides with ancient flood legends from many Eastern cultures. Some scholars suggest that this could be evidence that ancient peoples once lived in or passed through this region after a major event in human history. Even so, mainstream geologists continue to hold that the Durupanar Formation is simply a strange product of nature. According to them, this rock formation was shaped by erosion and geological processes over thousands of years. Its ship-like appearance, they say, is a remarkable coincidence, not a remnant of Noah's Ark. To this day, the Durupanar Formation continues to captivate both believers in the legend and scientific researchers alike. New evidence keeps emerging, but the mystery of this place remains unsolved. If one day someone proves that a real ancient ship lies beneath these rocks, the world will have to rethink much about humanity's past. And if that day comes, it may well be that our planet still holds many more mysteries and legendary relics waiting to be discovered. The mysterious tunnel beneath Jerusalem, Hezekiah's Tunnel. Beneath the ground of the ancient city of Jerusalem lies a mysterious structure that many have heard about, but not everyone has seen with their own eyes. This is the Siloam Tunnel, also known as Hezekiah's Tunnel. The structure has existed for nearly 2,700 years, carved straight through solid rock by the hands of ancient workers. The purpose of building the tunnel was very clear. King Hezekiah had this tunnel constructed to bring water from the Gihon spring to the Pool of Siloam. When the city was under siege by the Assyrian army, access to fresh water became a matter of life and death for every resident of Jerusalem. Thanks to this underground passage, the people could draw water without fear of being discovered by the enemy or having their supply cut off. What amazes many people is that the tunnel was dug by two separate teams, each starting from a different end, without any modern measuring tools and without any means of direct communication. Yet, they managed to meet each other almost perfectly in the middle of the mountain rock. Standing at the point where the two teams joined, you can still see the marks left by the chisels from both sides and truly appreciate the ingenuity and effort of the ancient builders. The entire tunnel is about 583 yards long, which is more than 530 meters. Its gradient is only about 12 inches from start to finish, that is, less than 30 centimeters. Thanks to this precise calculation, water from the Gihon spring has continued to flow steadily into the Pool of Siloam for thousands of years. It is an achievement that even many modern engineers today find astonishing and admirable. On the tunnel wall, there remains an ancient inscription known as the Siloam inscription. The text records the moment when the two teams of workers heard each other's voices echoing through the rock and finally broke through the dividing wall to meet in the middle of the tunnel. In 2009, scientists used radiometric dating techniques to determine the age of the tunnel. The results showed that it was built around the year 700 BCE, exactly during the reign of King Hezekiah over Jerusalem. This was the first solid evidence that an infrastructure project mentioned in the Bible truly exists in real life. More recently, in 2022, an Israeli research team discovered several new lines of writing on the tunnel walls using high-resolution imaging technology. These inscriptions have sparked new questions about what really happened beneath the ancient city of Jerusalem. To this day, water still flows through the Siloam Tunnel, and visitors can still walk its length to experience the wonder of this ancient engineering feat and to ponder the unresolved mysteries of human history. The James Ossuary. The story of a small limestone bone box that surfaced in October 2002 sparked an unprecedented wave of controversy in the archaeological world as well as among those interested in the Bible. This box is called the James Ossuary. What makes it so special is an inscription in Aramaic, an ancient language once spoken in the land of Judea, carved into its side. The inscription reads, "James, son of Joseph, brother of Jesus." For many, these words alone were enough to make the box one of the most important artifacts ever discovered in the history of biblical archaeology. If the box is authentic, it could be the first and only physical evidence directly related to Jesus Christ. Its value lies not only in its material or its age, but in the immense symbolic significance it carries. The owner of the ossuary is Oded Golan, an antiquities collector living in Tel Aviv, Israel. He claims he legally purchased the box in the 1970s and for many years considered it just another ordinary piece in his private collection without any idea of its true significance. Everything changed when a French linguist named André Lemaire had the chance to examine the ossuary in Golan's collection in 2002. Upon seeing the inscription, Lemaire immediately recognized the enormous importance of the artifact. He announced his discovery to the public, and the humble bone box instantly became the focus of worldwide attention. However, the fame of the James Ossuary brought with it skepticism and heated debate. Experts at the Israel Antiquities Authority argued that the words "brother of Jesus" may have been added in modern times to increase the value of the artifact. They found that the carving style of this portion appeared different from the rest of the inscription. This raised the question of whether the phrase was a clever forgery meant to deceive even the most experienced experts. On the other hand, those defending the authenticity of the ossuary produced very convincing test results. Chemical and biological researchers analyzed the patina inside the grooves of the inscription and the natural minerals that had accumulated over centuries while the object was buried. They reported that the patina on the inscription matched that of the rest of the box exactly. This meant that if anyone had added the extra words, they would have had to do so hundreds of years ago and then rebury the ossuary for a long time in order for the patina to develop so uniformly. This detail gave supporters of the box's authenticity even more reason to maintain their belief. The debate between the opposing viewpoints dragged on for years, even leading to a court case in Jerusalem. After a lengthy trial, in 2012, the court acquitted Oded Golan, citing a lack of evidence to convict him of forgery. Nevertheless, even after the legal proceedings ended, the academic controversy has never truly subsided. To this day, many still regard the James ossuary as the most significant physical evidence ever found relating to Jesus and other biblical figures. The small bone box remains at the boundary between fact and legend, between faith and doubt. Its story continues to inspire those who seek answers about history, about belief, and about the mysteries of humanity that have yet to be resolved. The Stone of Destiny. There are symbols that, though simple in appearance, carry with them the weight of history and legend. The Stone of Destiny is just such a stone. For centuries, it has stood at the center of stories that are part myth, part the narrative of royal power. In ancient times, it was called the Pillow of Heaven, for legend has it that Jacob himself used this very stone as a pillow when he dreamed of a ladder reaching from earth to heaven in the land of Bethel. The legend of the Stone of Destiny has been passed down through generations and appears in numerous ancient texts. For many, the stone is seen as a bridge between the human world and the divine, a mark of sacred faith that still echoes today. However, modern geological studies have shown that the stone was actually quarried in Scotland, not the Middle East, as the old stories suggest. Analysis reveals that the mineral makeup and structure of the stone matches exactly with the quarries surrounding the area of Scone. Despite ongoing debate about its origins, the Stone of Destiny has played an incredibly important role in the royal history of Scotland and England. Since the 13th century, it has always been present at the coronation ceremonies of Scottish kings. When King Edward I of England invaded Scotland in 1296, he had the stone brought to London and placed beneath the throne at Westminster Abbey. From that time on, every English coronation has included the Stone of Destiny as a reminder of royal power. In 1950, a group of Scottish students secretly brought the stone back to its homeland after centuries of absence. But only 4 months later, the Stone of Destiny was returned to London. It wasn't until 1996 that the British government decided to return the stone to Edinburgh as a gesture of historical reconciliation. Even so, in 2023, the Stone of Destiny was once again transported to London for the coronation of King Charles III, demonstrating that its symbolic role has never faded. Today, even though scientists have not been able to completely verify the stone's origins, no one can deny the influence and significance of the Stone of Destiny. This stone has become a living symbol of more than 1,000 years of history, rooted in biblical legend and standing as a silent witness to the power, faith, and aspirations of Western dynasties. The mysterious phenomenon in the sky over Nuremberg, 1561. On the morning of April 14th, 1561, as the city of Nuremberg lay peacefully under the early sunlight, its residents suddenly witnessed a scene they would never forget. Looking up at the sky, people saw a multitude of strange objects appearing overhead. These objects took on many forms: bright glowing spheres, long cylindrical rods, and crosses, moving in ways that defied all patterns or logic. The sky seemed to transform into a chaotic battlefield as the objects collided, separated, and then regrouped into ever-changing clusters, both large and small. Some of these flying objects appeared to crash violently, plummeting to the ground and sending up thick plumes of black smoke. Others simply faded away, vanishing silently into the vastness of the sky without leaving a trace. The entire sky was ablaze with brilliant streaks of light, filling many onlookers with a mix of curiosity and unease. The whole city was drawn to this unprecedented phenomenon, and everyone worried whether it was a sign of good fortune or impending disaster. The event was recorded in great detail by the local press. One notable news report described everything that the townspeople had witnessed and was accompanied by a woodcut engraving by the artist Hans Glaser. That woodcut remains, to this day, one of the most iconic images of unexplained aerial phenomena from centuries past. Today, scientists have tried to explain this strange event with various hypotheses. Some suggest that it was simply a rare optical effect, such as a sundog, a colorful halo caused by sunlight refracting through ice crystals in the atmosphere. When seen with the naked eye, such phenomena can easily be mistaken for something mysterious or supernatural. Others propose that it might have been a meteor shower or debris from space burning up as it entered the Earth's atmosphere. In the 16th century, religion played a profound role in the lives of Europeans. When confronted with such extraordinary events, many believed they were omens or messages from supernatural forces. Newspapers of the time did not hesitate to urge people to repent and pray in hopes of averting unforeseen disasters. Time has passed, but the strange phenomenon over Nuremberg's sky remains the subject of debate for generations. Today, some researchers who support the theory of ancient extraterrestrials believe this was evidence of a battle between unidentified flying objects. They claim that Hans Glaser's woodcut may be the earliest recorded depiction of UFOs in European history. Whatever the theory, this phenomenon continues to leave behind unanswered questions that no one has yet been able to resolve. Wandjina, the legend of the Sky People in Australia. In the wild Kimberley region of northwestern Australia, ancient rock faces have become the canvas for one of humanity's oldest and most profound mysteries. Here, hundreds of ancient rock paintings still bear the images of mysterious beings that the local Aboriginal people call the Wandjina. For the Woonambal people, the Wandjina are revered as their sacred ancestors. Anyone who lays eyes on the Wandjina paintings is immediately struck by their otherworldly appearance. The figures are painted in stark white against the stone, with large, deep black eyes that always gaze straight ahead, and faces conspicuously missing any mouth. Above each Wandjina's head is often a halo-like crown, making their forms appear even more surreal and enigmatic. These are not isolated images. Across countless rock walls throughout the Kimberley, the Wandjina appear again and again, always with the same striking and strange features. According to Aboriginal legend, the Wandjina were sky people who descended to Earth in the dawn of time. They were the original beings who shaped the land, rivers, plants, and all living creatures. After their work of creation was done, the Wandjina did not leave, but instead merged with nature, becoming the guardian spirits of every rainy season and each new sprouting of life. The people of the Kimberley believe that only by caring for and regularly repainting the Wandjina images can the balance of nature and the abundance of the seasons be maintained. Allowing the images to fade is seen as an ominous sign, inviting drought or instability to the land. The modern world has grown increasingly fascinated by the mystery behind these ancient paintings. Some who support the ancient astronaut theory believe that the Wandjina's form is evidence that extraterrestrials once visited Earth. They compare the halos above the Wandjina's heads to astronaut helmets and suggest that the large eyes and mouthless faces are features of beings from another world. Even the pale skin, slender bodies, and faraway stares found in the paintings are linked to modern descriptions of aliens. However, archaeologists and anthropologists offer a different perspective. They emphasize that the Wandjina images hold deep symbolic meaning, reflecting the spiritual worldview and ancient beliefs of the Australian Aboriginal people. For the Woonambal, the Wandjina are not simply gods or strange beings, but embody the power of nature and are sacred marks of the ancestors left for all generations to come. The absence of a mouth on the Wandjina is explained by their immense power. These spirits need only to think in order to bring rain or change the weather without ever speaking a word. To this day, the Kimberley region still retains its mysterious aura. Each Wandjina painting not only tells an ancient legend, but also serves as a reminder to modern generations of the enduring bond between humans, nature, and the past. The figures of these sky people etched into the stone continue to fuel debate and wonder. The mystery of cocaine in the brains of Renaissance Italians. Ancient cocaine brain. Sometimes history leaves behind strange traces that no one could have anticipated. Around 400 years ago, the city of Milan in Italy was still shaded by the shadows of ancient castles. At that time, no one imagined that something extraordinary was taking place beneath the surface of an old hospital cemetery. Yet, centuries later, modern scientists would uncover a secret that astonished the entire research community. When two skeletons buried in a hospital cemetery in Milan were excavated, scientists examined the remaining brain tissue preserved within the two skulls. They could hardly believe the results they found. In the brain matter of both individuals, they detected traces of cocaine, a compound that occurs naturally only in the coca leaves of South America. What is even more remarkable is that this discovery comes from an era when history tells us that Europe had not yet encountered this plant. This finding left researchers at the University of Milan with many questions. How could cocaine, which exists only in the Andean regions of South America, end up in the bodies of two Italians from the Renaissance? The most plausible explanation is that in the 17th century, under Spanish rule, Spanish sailors and merchants secretly brought coca leaves to Europe on transatlantic voyages. It is possible that folk healers, or even smugglers, used coca leaves as a remedy to ease pain or to combat illness. The research led by Dr. Gaia Giordano not only confirmed the presence of cocaine traces in the brain tissue, but also opened up a completely new perspective on the history of global trade. We have always believed that the ancient world was divided by vast oceans and insurmountable cultural barriers, but this evidence shows that the products and secrets of distant civilizations had already found their way into European life long before official history ever recorded it. The bone-hungry monster. Gashadokuro in Japanese legend. In Japan, whenever darkness descends upon quiet rural villages and the night grows deeper, people pass on the chilling tale of a terror known as Gashadokuro. It is believed that when war breaks out or famine endures, causing many to die without proper burials, their restless souls merge together, forming a gigantic being in the shape of a human skeleton. Gashadokuro is said to be so enormous that just by standing up, it can overshadow an entire forest or a small village. The sound of its bones grinding together echoes through the night like distant thunder, warning any who are still awake that something unstoppable is drawing near. According to legend, Gashadokuro can roam wherever it wishes under the cover of night, unseen by anyone. Only when you hear a strange sound behind you do you realize you have become its target. There is no escape, for Gashadokuro moves with a speed and strength far greater than any human. For the Japanese, this skeleton is more than just a monster from the imagination. It symbolizes the deep pain and sorrow left behind by war and poverty. The forgotten souls lost in the smoke of conflict unite to remind the living of the tragedies that history has witnessed. Gashadokuro is not only found in oral folklore, but is also tied to a famous historical anecdote about Taira no Masakado, a renowned warrior from the Heian period. After he was beheaded for rebelling against the authorities, his daughter, Princess Takayasha, used ancient magic to summon the giant skeleton, Gashadokuro. She sought vengeance for her father and to defend the honor of the Taira clan. This haunting scene was immortalized by the artist Utagawa Kuniyoshi in a famous woodblock print where the gigantic skeleton looms behind the princess, creating a striking image of both grandeur and chilling sorrow, evoking the power of hatred and the pain of loss. Over time, Gashadokuro has become a part of Japanese popular culture. The image of this colossal skeleton appears in many animated films, video games, and manga. It is often used as a symbol of collective fear, as well as a warning about the consequences of war and hunger. Whenever the monster is mentioned, Japanese people are reminded not just of terror, but also of the importance of valuing peace and cherishing those around them. Ultimately, the legend of Gashadokuro is not just a folktale meant to frighten children, but a profound reminder of the consequences of forgetting the past. Pain and loss, if left unacknowledged and unhealed, can accumulate into a haunting shadow over entire communities. Thus, wherever we live, we should all remember that peace and empathy are values that must never be lost. Fingal's Cave, the mythical cave of giants in Scotland. On a small island off the coast of Scotland lies a place that leaves an indelible impression on all who visit. Fingal's Cave. Stepping inside, you are greeted by hundreds of dark gray basalt columns rising straight to the sky, arranged in perfectly uniform rows like the pillars of an ancient cathedral. Each column is nearly a perfect hexagon, leaving visitors in awe of nature's extraordinary artistry. Look a little closer, and you'll notice that this unique structure also appears elsewhere, at the Giant's Causeway on the coast of Northern Ireland. Many once believed that these two sites were actually linked by a basalt bridge stretching straight across the sea. Long before science could explain this natural phenomenon, the local people shared legends of giants. According to tradition, it was the giant Finn McCool who built the stone bridge to connect Scotland and Ireland so he could face his rival, Benandonner. Finn McCool was famed for his strength and cunning, while Benandonner was notorious for his ferocity, invincible in battle. After the bridge was finished, Finn McCool crossed the sea to challenge Benandonner. But upon seeing his rival's immense size, Finn McCool devised a clever scheme to avoid an unfair fight. In the end, to escape, he destroyed the bridge, leaving only the two ends, those beautiful hexagonal stone shores that today we know as Fingal's Cave and the Giant's Causeway. Modern scientists have since shown that these stone columns were formed by the cooling and contracting of molten lava from volcanic eruptions millions of years ago. As the lava cooled, it cracked into evenly shaped hexagonal columns stretching from beneath the earth up to the ocean's edge. This explains why two distant locations share such an identical geological structure. Whether explained by science or legend, the scenery at Fingal's Cave always leaves visitors awestruck by the grandeur and mystery that nature has bestowed on this land. Fingal's Cave is renowned not only for its legend of giants, but also as an endless source of inspiration for poets, writers, and musicians throughout Europe. The poet James Macpherson wrote immortal verses about Celtic heroes, often referencing the cave's dramatic landscape. Sir Walter Scott, Scotland's great novelist, once described Fingal's Cave as one of the most impressive wonders he had ever witnessed. In 1829, the musical genius Felix Mendelssohn, after visiting the cave, composed the Hebrides Overture, music that echoes the sound of waves and the cave's mysterious resonance. Music, poetry, and painting have all left their mark on this place, turning it into a symbol of the magical harmony between nature and human imagination. Today, everyone who visits Fingal's Cave brings home their own unique feelings. Some stand in awe of nature's power. Others are enchanted by fairy tales of giants and legendary battles. Some even hear, in the echoes of the waves among the stone columns, the timeless melodies of a distant symphony. Fingal's Cave is a place where nature, legend, and art intertwine, creating an eternal heritage for humanity. It is where every generation can find a touch of mystery, a spark of inspiration, and a renewed hope in the enduring power of wonder amid the modern world. Neanderthals ate maggots. When we think of Neanderthals, most of us probably imagine an ancient group living deep in the forests, hunting large animals and mastering the use of fire to roast their meat. However, recent studies have revealed a far more surprising truth about how our prehistoric ancestors adapted to the harsh realities of their time. Scientists have analyzed the chemical composition of Neanderthal bones and discovered that the nitrogen content in their bones is unusually high. Initially, researchers believed this nitrogen came from consuming large amounts of animal meat. However, Professor Leslie Aiello from the Max Planck Foundation and Dr. Melanie Beasley decided to re-examine this hypothesis. They realized that the unusually high levels of nitrogen did not just come from animal meat, it could also come from a far less expected source: maggots, the larvae of flies that live on decaying flesh. The research team conducted experiments at the Body Farm in Tennessee. where animal carcasses are left outdoors to study the decomposition process. There, Dr. Melanie Beasley collected and analyzed the nitrogen content in maggots growing on the remains and discovered that these maggots contained even higher nitrogen levels than fresh meat. This led them to conclude that Neanderthals may have supplemented their diet with these nutrient-rich maggots found on rotting flesh, rather than relying solely on hunted meat. This finding helps explain why their bone nitrogen levels far exceeded what we previously imagined about prehistoric diets. This research shows that Neanderthals were not just pure hunters, but also flexible and creative in adapting to harsh living conditions. When fresh meat was scarce, they were willing to make use of any available food source, even things that many today would find repulsive. This adaptability was the key to their survival during the coldest and most challenging periods in human history. The story of Neanderthals eating maggots is a reminder that adaptability and resourcefulness have always been vital for humans to overcome the challenges of nature and their times. The mystery of the Orion constellation in ancient cultures. The Orion mystery. There are mysteries in the night sky that have accompanied humanity since the dawn of time, and among the most enduring is the constellation Orion. No matter where you stand on Earth, on a clear night, the light of Orion's belt, those three stars in a straight line, will always guide you across the vast, infinite heavens. What continues to astound researchers is that thousands of years ago, many ancient civilizations, completely isolated from one another, constructed monumental structures aligned perfectly with these three stars. In Egypt, the three Great Pyramids of Giza, set upon the endless desert, are aligned precisely to the stars of Orion's belt, revealing that the ancients not only gazed at the sky, but also embedded in it messages meant to last through the ages. On the other side of the world, the builders of Teotihuacan in Mexico created avenues and pyramids that also mirror the position of these stars. In Babylon, ancient temples were oriented toward Orion as the cosmic center, while for the Maya, ancient astronomical observatories enabled them to predict the seasons and understand the cycles of the universe through the movements of these stars. Especially remarkable is that the Dogon people of West Africa still preserve legends about a mysterious connection between their ancestors and the three aligned stars of Orion. Centuries of myth and legend have woven a veil of mystery around this constellation. The ancient Egyptians believed that the god Osiris, lord of life and death, came from Orion to bring wisdom and order to humanity. The Greeks told of Orion as a mighty hunter placed in the sky by the gods to guard the secrets of the universe forever. In Babylon, Orion was seen as the sentinel of the stars, while among the Dogon, legendary beings called the Nomo were said to have come from the Sirius system near Orion to teach humankind how to interpret the heavens. What is most astonishing is that the Dogon knew of Sirius B, an invisible companion star to Sirius, undetectable to the naked eye. They even knew its orbital period and density, knowledge that Western scientists would only confirm in the 20th century with the most advanced technology. How could ancient peoples, without telescopes or modern astronomy, have known about stars that remain mysteries even today? Was it all mere coincidence, or is it possible that some lost civilization once guided them or shared with them knowledge far beyond their era? Could there be an invisible thread connecting ancient cultures spun from the stars themselves? The next time you look up at the three aligned stars of Orion on a quiet night, remember that for thousands of years, countless generations have gazed up at that same sky with the same sense of wonder and the same deep reverence. The unknown humans of the Green Sahara. Today, when people think of the Sahara, they usually picture endless seas of sand stretching to the horizon, scorching winds, and solitary oases scattered across a burning desert. Yet there is a little-known truth. 7,000 years ago, the Sahara was once a lush land filled with lakes and rivers, sweeping grasslands, and great herds of animals roaming beneath the shade of trees. Back then, this land was not a lifeless desert, but a vibrant home where thousands of people lived, built communities, and developed a flourishing culture in the very heart of Africa. Archaeologists have uncovered evidence of an era when the Sahara was the Green Sahara. The remains of ancient villages, stone tools, and rock carvings depicting hunting scenes and festivals reveal that this place was once a world entirely different from what we see today. More recently, in Libya, scientists excavated the mummified remains of two ancient women buried deep beneath the arid soil. When they conducted DNA analysis, they uncovered a mystery greater than anything previously known. These people possessed a genetic lineage entirely distinct from other groups living in Africa at the same time, and, astonishingly, their DNA contained traces of Neanderthal ancestry. The existence of a people with such a unique genetic signature at the heart of the Sahara has prompted scientists to ask new questions about humanity's migration and interconnection throughout history. How could a group remain so isolated in a world constantly changing and intertwining? What allowed them to thrive and survive in a place that was once a land of abundance, but later transformed into an unforgiving desert? The discovery of the unknown humans of the Green Sahara serves as a reminder that the history of this region is not merely a story of burning sand and hardship. It is an epic tale of life, of unexpected encounters between different human lineages, and of human resilience in the face of nature's relentless changes. The secret caves beneath Nottingham, Robin Hood, and the hidden underground. Beneath the ancient streets and moss-covered castles of Nottingham, England, there exists a mysterious underground world that not everyone knows about. Hidden deep beneath the surface is the largest system of man-made caves in the entire United Kingdom, nearly 900 in all. These caves were first dug by humans as early as the 9th century, originally just to find a safe refuge amid the upheavals of the age. Over the centuries, generations of Nottingham's residents have put this network to countless uses, as shelters during wars, hiding places for valuables, secret sites for rituals, and even as hideouts for tax evaders or those fleeing from their enemies. Many entrances to the caves once dotted the city, but over time, most have been buried or built over, leaving much of the cave system still shrouded in darkness and yet to be fully explored. It's said that in certain periods, entire families could live underground year-round, thanks to the tangle of rooms and passageways carved deep into Nottingham's soft sandstone. Old legends also claim that these caves once served as hideouts for Robin Hood, the legendary hero known for his archery skills and chivalrous spirit, who fought against oppression to protect the poor. Other theories suggest that the Knights Templar once used this cave system to hide treasures and valuable documents while they were being hunted across Europe. To this day, the true stories behind these legends remain mysteries without definitive answers. Today, as the city continues to grow, most entrances to the caves have been filled in or obscured by modern buildings. Yet, preservation and research efforts never cease. Historian Scott Lomax has dedicated many years of his life to mapping and protecting Nottingham's underground cave network. Thanks to his efforts, and those of many other researchers, the number of recorded and explored caves has nearly doubled in just the last few decades. Scott Lomax always emphasizes that these caves are not only a heritage of Nottingham, but a cultural treasure for all of England. A vault preserving countless thrilling tales of humanity and history spanning more than 1,000 years. Ancient breath mints, mouth fresheners of ancient Egypt. In the land of ancient Egypt, where pyramids tower above the desert and the Nile River brings new silt each year, people were not only known for their monumental constructions, but also for their ingenuity that was ahead of their time. When it came to healthcare, the ancient Egyptians faced a problem that still troubles many today: tooth decay and bad breath. They ate bread made from wheat ground on rough stone, which often wore down their enamel and left their breath less than fresh. With no modern dentists and no toothpaste, the Egyptians had to find their own ways to protect themselves from these daily inconveniences. Drawing on skill and knowledge handed down through generations, they invented some of humanity's very first breath mints. The recipe was both simple and sophisticated. They would boil honey until it bubbled, then mix in frankincense, myrrh, and cinnamon powder to create small pellets to suck on whenever their breath needed refreshing. Honey helped soothe sores in the mouth, while frankincense and myrrh provided antibacterial effects and a pleasant aroma. Cinnamon brought a gentle flavor that lingered and left a long-lasting feeling of cleanliness after use. These humble breath mints were not only a reflection of the Egyptians' concern for health and appearance, but also proof that they truly cherished life and knew how to make the most of nature's gifts to improve their quality of living. So the next time you think of ancient Egypt, don't just remember the powerful pharaohs or the unsolved mysteries. Take a moment to imagine those tiny breath mints, a testament to human creativity and civilization from the distant past. Ancient door locks. Long before the invention of modern locks with their complex mechanisms, ancient people had already found ways to safeguard their possessions with creative and practical inventions. In Egypt, about 6,000 years ago, craftsmen invented the world's first pin tumbler lock. This early lock was quite large and made entirely of wood, operating on a principle that used wooden pins inside the body of the lock. To open a door, one needed a special key with notches matching the positions of the pins inside. When the key was inserted correctly, the pins would be lifted, allowing the bolt to slide and the door to open smoothly. Simple as it was, this design was remarkably clever and lasted for centuries throughout ancient Egypt. As civilization advanced, the ancient Greeks and Romans learned from and improved upon the Egyptian locks. They began using metal to increase durability and reduce the size, making locks more convenient to carry. The Romans even invented secret locks hidden inside doors to increase security, and they elevated the design of keys into ornate jewelry, reflecting the owner's status and sense of style. Despite the passage of millennia, many ancient locks have survived in perfect condition, standing as vivid testimony to human ingenuity and skill in protecting what they valued most. The story of ancient door locks is not just the history of an invention. It is a symbol of the desire to keep families, communities, and cherished values safe for the future. Thanks to these innovations, our journey from past to present has always been guarded by humble yet meaningful doors, passed down through each generation. Tersorium, the toilet of ancient Rome. While modern life is accustomed to the comforts of toilet paper and private bathrooms, in ancient Rome, people had to come up with some very creative ways to handle daily hygiene. One of the most remarkable and perhaps most curious inventions was a tool called the tersorium, also known as the xylospongium. This was a wooden stick with a sponge attached to one end, used for cleaning oneself after using the toilet. The unique point is that this tool was shared by many people in the crowded public bathhouses of the city. After each use, the tersorium would be washed in a basin filled with salty water or vinegar, then put back for the next person. Although it was far from a perfect method of sanitation, it was nonetheless the most common solution of the era, at a time when the concept of personal hygiene was very different from what we know today. In addition to the tersorium, the ancient Greeks used small pebbles called pessoi for cleaning. An old proverb even stated that just 3 stones were enough for one visit, and many such stones have actually been found at the ruins of ancient bathhouses. Some people even went so far as to carve the names of their enemies or those they disliked onto the stones, a subtle way to vent their feelings or send a secret message each time they used them. The story of the tersorium and pessoi not only highlights the inventiveness of our ancestors in adapting to their circumstances, but also reflects the fascinating differences in attitudes toward personal hygiene across the ages. Looking back at these simple inventions, we realize that people of any era have always sought ways to make life more comfortable and convenient, no matter how limited their material resources might have been. The ancient refrigerator, the yakhchal of Persia. When it comes to inventions that allow people to preserve food and enjoy cool treats in the sweltering summer, few realize that over 2,000 years ago, the ancient Persians had already created a giant refrigerator that still impresses the modern world today. This is the yakchal, a massive domed structure made of thick adobe or brick, ingeniously designed to keep things cold and preserve food in the blistering desert climate. Yakchals were typically constructed with thick walls coated in a special waterproof mortar, providing absolute insulation and keeping the inside temperature extremely low, even when the sun blazed outside. In the winter, water from irrigation channels would be directed into shallow pools around the yakchal, where it would freeze overnight. These blocks of ice were then stored inside the chamber. Thanks to the yakchal's unique structure, hot air was pushed up toward the dome's peak, while cool air settled below, creating an ideal environment for storing ice and food throughout the long summer months. Underground air vents and passageways also contributed to the cooling process, using evaporation techniques that the Persians mastered centuries ago. More than just an ice storage, the yakchal was a treasure vault for precious foods, enabling desert dwellers to enjoy refreshing meals at any time of year. One of Iran's most famous traditional desserts, faluda, with its delicate vermicelli mixed with shaved ice, rosewater, and lime juice, was kept perfectly chilled inside these ancient coolers. Even today, across many regions of Iran, you can still find the sturdy silhouettes of yakchals standing proud amid the desert winds, a testament to human ingenuity and perseverance in the quest to master harsh nature. Looking at these remarkable structures, we see not only echoes of the past, but also a living pride in a civilization whose legacy endures vibrantly within the modern world. The ancient tooth extractor, dental key. Among the many fears that have haunted humanity from ancient times to the present day, toothache has always ranked as one of the most dreaded experiences. Before the development of modern medicine, with its gentle treatments, anesthetics, and antibiotics, pulling out a decayed tooth was often the only way to end persistent pain. And one of the most familiar tools to old-time healers and dentists was the dental key, an ancient tooth extractor shaped much like an oversized door key. The dental key was designed to slip into the mouth and grip tightly around the base of a tooth. The practitioner would then forcefully twist the handle, loosening the tooth from the jaw. Unfortunately, this method came with many risks, such as severe injury to the gums and jawbone, or even breaking the root, leaving pieces embedded in the mouth. Yet for centuries, the dental key was an indispensable tool in clinics and apothecaries, considered the only salvation when patients suffered unbearable tooth pain. It wasn't until the late 19th century, when modern forceps were invented and gradually replaced the dental key, that the risk of trauma was truly reduced. These newer tools allowed for more flexible, gentle extractions. Looking back at the ancient dental key, we can clearly see humanity's relentless journey towards safety and effectiveness in healthcare, even if it meant enduring much pain and trial and error. Every step forward in medicine is built upon the hard-earned lessons and experiences of previous generations, leaving us a better, easier life than those who came before. Fanhe Moiba, Chuatu Jonghi Lap Chojai, automatic doors in ancient Greece. When speaking of the groundbreaking advancements of the ancient Greeks, people often mention philosophy, mathematics, or grand architecture, but few realize that as far back as 2,000 years ago, they also invented the world's first automatic door system. The renowned inventor Heron of Alexandria left a distinct mark on the history of science with his steam-powered and hydraulic devices, most notably his automatic door mechanism, which used simple yet effective physical principles. In the sacred temples of ancient Greece, Heron installed doors that could open automatically at the start of rituals, all based on a series of ropes, pulleys, and water tanks heated by fire on the altar. As the flames rose, the water would gradually heat and flow into a lower tank, creating the force needed to open the massive doors. Worshippers were left in awe at this miracle unfolding amid sacred incense and flickering lights. When the ceremony ended, the fire would be extinguished, the water cooled, and, thanks to air pressure, the liquid would slowly return to its original tank, causing the doors to close gently and precisely at the right moment. Every time these magical doors swung open in the glow and smoke of ritual, the ancients believed they were witnessing the very arrival of the gods. In reality, Heron's invention amazed his contemporaries and inspired future generations to imagine how science could be harnessed to create experiences far beyond the ordinary. The story of Heron of Alexandria's automatic doors stands as proof that even in the ancient world, people were always curious, eager to explore, and willing to blend engineering with religion to bring a sense of wonder into daily life. Fan hemoy bond, dung chu chong tu dam toy Victoria, male member torture. In human history, there have been many periods when people suffered under misguided beliefs about health and medicine, but few eras were as extreme as the Victorian Age in England. At that time, doctors and moralists believed that masturbation was not only a sinful act, but also the cause of countless physical and mental illnesses, from weakness and memory loss to the risk of early death. Because of this conviction, a host of genital torture devices were invented with the sole purpose of preventing and deterring those who could not control their instincts. One of the most infamous and terrifying devices of the period was the jugum, a metal ring fitted with sharp spikes that encircled the base of the penis. If the wearer became aroused, the spikes would inflict excruciating pain, inducing fear and completely suppressing desire. In addition to the jugum, there were countless other devices, iron locks, tiny armored sheaths, or binding mechanisms that made it impossible for users to touch themselves. These contraptions not only caused physical harm, but also left deep psychological scars on those forced to use them. According to historian John Wolfe, the Victorian era went too far in its efforts to control personal life, and the price paid was steep. Yet the story of these anti-masturbation devices serves as a powerful reminder of the need for knowledge, compassion, and understanding in medicine and in how we approach sensitive issues in modern society. Only by overcoming prejudice and learning from the mistakes of the past can we truly progress and bring about a healthier, more humane future for generations to come. Thank you for joining us on this journey through some of history's strangest mysteries. If you found these stories intriguing, leave your thoughts in the comments below and share this video with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell so you won't miss out on any of our upcoming mysteries. We'll see you in the next video.